Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Broken Brains with your host, Bruce Parkman, sponsored by the Mac Parkman Foundation. And on this podcast, we look at the issue of repetitive brain trauma in the form of repetitive head impacts from contact sports and repetitive blast exposure for our military veterans and for pilots and people banging around those little tiny boats as well. These two issues right now are the largest preventable cause of mental illness in this country. Yet both these issues, RHI and RBE, are poorly understood by our medical, nursing, psychiatrical, and suicide prevention communities. So we reach out to people that have experienced the impacts of these issues, scientists, researchers, authors, journalists, moms and dads like me whose kids are no longer here, to bring you the latest and updated information for you to make an informed decision, because you are the only thing that can help. You're the only person that can help yourself and protect those valuable children there. Today, we have another amazing guest on this show, Matthew Whiz Buckley. And if you haven't seen Tom Cruise, this guy's got Tom Cruise learned from this dude, man. Here right now, man. He's the founder and president of the No Fallen Heroes Foundation. His call sign, Whiz, is a former decorated Navy fighter pilot and the CEO for Top Gun Options LLC and Strike Fighter Financial LLC in Boca Raton. Whiz, I'm raising money right now for my company. We need to talk. From 1991 to 2006, Whiz was a highly decorated naval aviator with the United States Navy, serving at multiple duty stations worldwide. He was an FA-18 Hornet instructor and adversary pilot and flew combat sorties over Iraq and was awarded 2 strike and flight air medals. He graduated from the Navy Fighter Weapons School Top Gun Adversary course and has combined his unprecedented experiences in the militaries and corporate America to write 3 books, From Sea Level to Sea Level, A Fighter Pilot's Journey from the Front Lines to the Front Office, and COVID Crash from Panic to Profit. And his book, Strength and Gratitude, is an international bestseller. He's on the advisory board for Healing Reality Trust and hosts the Max Afterburner podcast, a long-form podcast covering a wide range of topics from psychedelics to veteran issues to politics and markets. We'll be addressing those two right here for quite a while. And the podcast is ranked in the top 2.5% of 3.3 million in the world, which is, man, that's a feat we hope to achieve here. And congratulations on your success. Whiz, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us on the Broken Brains podcast today, sir.
Bruce, I'm going to bring your average down, if anything. So so be careful.
Hey, I'm an NCO, man. I was educated in the Boston public school system, so we know how that's going to happen, man. So
well, you guys ran the military, so thank you. Thanks for running the military, so us officers didn't screw it up too bad.
No, I appreciate it, sir. You know, it's I can't even imagine what it's like on your side of the military, working on those aircraft carriers and just all those days at sea and just being, just being alone, and there's a lot of research coming out talking about fighter pilots and the impacts of landing those jets on those carriers and takeoffs, and how that might be the equivalent of repetitive blast exposure on the brains of fighter pilots. I don't know if you call them fighter jocks or whatever. I've heard that term thrown around, but I am not tossing around without your approval here. So tell us about that before we even dive into it, because it just popped in my brain, and if I don't talk about it, then I lose it. So
it's a great place to start, Bruce. We actually were featured in the New York Times Sunday edition a couple months ago. It was front page about repetitive injuries to fighter pilots. Bruce, if you went in your driveway and sat in your car and a crane took you up to the second story and dropped you, that's the equivalent force of landing aboard an aircraft carrier every time. That force is never less, or else you wouldn't land. You'd miss. There has to be about an 800-900 foot per minute rate of descent. Sometimes it's even greater. I remember trying to get aboard the boat in between Tasmania and Australia in the Tasman Sea. There was water coming over the bow of the aircraft carrier, man. And I remember slamming into the deck, and I thought I'd literally broke my back. It was brutal. So not only the landings aboard a ship are pretty brutal, but the takeoffs. You go from me sitting in this chair from 0 to about 150 to 200 miles an hour in a second and a half. So, we're moving the brains all over the place. And then not only that, we're pulling G's. I remember, being a young 27-year-old kid from South Jersey flying off the Kitty Hawk and doing a dogfight, just, catapult shot, went up, pulled some G's, slammed aboard the carrier. I'm sweating. I remember walking in the ready room, and every squadron has a flight surgeon. And I remember my flight surgeon looking at me and shaking his head, and he's like, "Man, you guys, you just don't want to know what all of this does to your bodies." 27-year-old kid. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Well,
No.
guess what? It does do a lot to our bodies, but unfortunately, for decades, aviators haven't been able to speak out. Because if you went to that same flight surgeon and said, "Hey, doc, something is a little wrong with me," "Oh, okay, Whiz, you're not flying anymore until we figure that out." So you actually, as an aviator, you have to hide anything that's wrong with you, either to your military flight surgeon or your FAA doctor. Because if you are honest, you're done flying. So it's a perverse system that we have.
So the stigma that we have in special operations and in law enforcement against speaking out again for, if you're feeling down or, you're mentally ill, it's the same.
Yep.
It's pervasive in the the fighters community.
Oh
as
God,
well.
yeah. And it's so stupid because the flight surgeon would, of course, get in front of the ready room like, "Hey, if anything's, you got a headache or anything, you can always come talk to me." And we'd all laugh because we're like, "Dude, you're the last guy we're gonna come and talk to." Which is it's sad technically because and of course, if you did, let's say you're feeling a little depressed and you went and talked to the flight surgeon like, "Hey doc, I'm feeling a little depressed." What's he going to do? He's going to remove you from flight status, which is probably one of the only things keeping you happy right now, right? So now you're going to be even more depressed that he or she's taking you off what you're doing that's actually making you happy. So we gotta fix a lot of stuff that's going on.
And let's talk about those fixes in a second. Like I was talking to one of my Navy SEAL buddies, and and I can remember back in those days, you crack off some charges and you're just eating the blast, like, yeah, and he was telling me one day he was the range safety officer, and and he's standing right next to these guys shooting these Carl Gustavs off. So he's eating the equivalent of every one. There must have been like 45 shots. He's like, he couldn't feel his fingers anymore. And he couldn't wait to get back the next day. And I mean, but that's because we're kind of ignorant on this stuff. And we think that, as men, right, and women nowadays, that this is really cool to be taking this punishment, and
Bruce, I forgot to mention something. So in addition to everything landing aboard the boat and being a pilot, I was what's called an LSO, a landing signal officer. So when I wasn't flying, I went on the back of the boat with a set of little foamies, and I would help my fellow aviators land aboard the boat. So if you've ever seen, the movie Maverick or Top Gun, you see all the, 18, 19-year-old kids running around on the flight deck. They have the Mickey Mouse hearing protection on, right? So not only do they have the Mickey Mouse ears on, but they have the foamies. And even they suffer hearing losses. But as an LSO on the back of the boat, we only wore the foamies because I had to be able to hear the engines. I had to be able to hear if the pilot was taking off a little power or adding some power. So here I am standing on the back of the boat as an F-14 Tomcat comes by 20 feet away from me in full afterburner. So, you get out and you tell the VA like, "Hey, I have horrific tinnitus. I have horrible hearing loss." It's not service related. What?
Really?
Oh yeah. It's infuriating to me, the VA, right? So one day I went from being an F-18 fighter pilot with a top secret SCI clearance to literally the next day being a liar, right? How can you go from having the absolute highest trust that our nation can award you to the next day, you're full of shit, we don't believe you with anything, prove it? I'm like, whoa, I thought you guys trusted me. Nope, it's a court case now. You got to prove everything that's wrong with you. How about you start with, we'll believe everything, and if we find out you're lying, you're going to jail. I would have agreed to all of that. It's the system's inverted. It's, we don't believe you in anything. You got to prove everything. No wonder these young kids go into the parking lot and put a bullet in their head. It's like, you don't believe me? You used to believe me, and you had me do a bunch of crazy shit, but now I'm a liar. Okay, great. Thanks.
It's like Johnny Rambo's like, "I used to drive a fucking tank, Colonel."
That's exactly right, man.
Yeah. I mean, and it is right. You get called a liar, and that's why the education is so important. Because I had to go educate the VA on RBE. I had to come in I brought my,
Yeah.
MOS, all my years of being a Green Beret, being shot in the face, hey, I was in combat, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all they wanted to say said, "Do you got any scars?" And I said, "Yeah, come look at my eyebrows," because I played all Army rugby for 8 years. And he's like, "I got broken orbital bones." They're like, "Wow, you are." They wanted to see scars. So I was a liar until I could prove that I actually had trauma, because it's all inside our head. You're right. We
Correct.
need to trust our veterans more. They're not there if they've got a demonstrated history like you, sir, right? I mean, how many times did you launch off those carriers? I mean, do you count them?
Times.
Hundreds of times, right?
357. I should know the number to the exact landing, because you probably remember almost all of them. Yeah, hundreds of times. Yep.
Right. So you count those like we count parachute jumps,
exactly.
Right? So, yeah. So you walk in there and you got,
especially the night ones.
Dude,
Jesus.
I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm a small boat Coast Guard captain. How big does a wave have to be to go over the bow of an aircraft carrier, bro? I mean,
I think they said they were 40 or 50-foot waves in the Tasman Sea.
And they let you fly.
Here was.
I mean, combat. You don't have a choice, but
And you know what? It was a beautiful day. It was sunny. It wouldn't look like this, right? And I remember waking up that morning on the boat, and I think our TV had fallen in our stateroom and smashed. I mean, walking to the ready room to brief, I'm saying to myself, I'm like, there's no way we're going to go flying. Sat in the brief. Things are falling off the ready room walls. I'm like, there's no way we're going to go flying. The reason, we left the Persian Gulf and they pulled the rods in the nuke to get us down to Perth as quick as possible. So the jets hadn't flown for like a week or two. Oh, okay. And then we went from Perth over to Hobart, so the jets didn't fly. So this day was supposed to be a maintenance day. These were all broken aircraft that needed experienced pilots like me to get them up there to check out all the repairs.
Wait. Those are broken aircraft that they needed our best pilots to go up there. It just sounded a little bit.
Process that. Yeah, I mean, when they
I am.
guess what? When they change out an engine or the flight controls, they gotta. How's the only way to test it? Get airborne, right?
Get it up in the air, yeah.
I remember walking to the jet, right? I got up on the flight deck and it's literally, Titanic. I'm like, oh my God, man, there's no way we're going to go flying. Next minute, I am attached to the catapult and I'm literally, so you run up to full power, you wipe the flight controls out and everything looks good. And then you salute the catapult officer. That lets the catapult officer know Whiz is ready to go flying. But I remember doing all that and saluting the catapult officer as we went down. And I'm looking at a full Tasman Sea in my windscreen. I remember looking at the catapult officer and I'm shaking my head. And the guy gave me a look like, dude, I got it. I'm not going to shoot you right now, right? And then the bow went up and all I saw was sky. And he shot me, right? So I get airborne. I'm like, I got to land now. I didn't care about the maintenance portion of the flight. I'm like, I got to land back aboard this thing. And bro, I've never seen it in my naval career. When I came in to land, first of all, I was like maybe midway through the landing. There's about 20 of us, like the first 10. I'm in the middle. The first 10, it sounded like a Civil War hospital, man. They were screaming and power and wave off. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening down there? And then I get into the landing pattern, and I've never seen this in my naval career. Speaking of Titanic, as the stern went up, you could see the back two screws of the Kitty Hawk.
No way.
Yep. I think it had 4. So the back 2, you could see the tips of the screws. I'm like, I've never seen that. I think I got waved off on the first pass because I was just out of cycle with the deck. And then the second one, same thing. But when I landed that last one, dude, I put that thing on there. And it's not funny, but here's the funny part. Every one of the jets that got airborne fixed the airborne problem that made it require a maintenance flight. And every one of us, the jet was broken because of hard landings. So they had to put all the jets in the hangar bay, put them up on stilts, and have to inspect the landing gear. So we fixed one thing and we broke them all for landings. It was insane.
I mean, I've seen that aircraft carrier in San Diego Harbor, and that deck has got to be, 100, 150 feet off the water.
Yeah.
So to get those screws out of the water, I mean,
Yeah.
dude, that's one of those. I don't know if I really want to do those moments.
No. As an
Yeah.
old guy now, I would have thrown my own mother in the cockpit to do it instead. But as a
Yeah.
young kid, I'm like, dude, I'm at the top of the world, man. I'm a maintenance pilot, and this is great. But man, that was brutal. That was a hard landing, and all those jets broke. It was, yeah, that was one of those. I remember trying to taxi out, and of course, you're at the 5-month point in cruise, and the deck has what's called non-skid on it. It's like this, this material that it's a non-skid, so you don't skid. But at the 5-month point in cruise, man, from landings and all sorts of stuff, that stuff's gone. So it's like bare steel, and you have oil and hydraulic fluid. So when you're taxiing, I remember on that day the boat does this, and I'm sliding towards the edge of the boat, and the directors are like, I had to come up on the power to like climb to taxi.
And it's not like you can steer those things either, man.
No, man. I've actually had the steering input in to turn that way and just kept going that way because there's the tires ain't gripping any of the non-skid. It was brutal. It was some stupid shit going on, but I'm here to tell about it.
Dude, that's all that counts, man, to tell you the truth. So
Yep.
Tell me about this New York Times article, because that's kind of, that was kind of, creating a lot of this whole repetitive head impact, repetitive brain trauma issue is what, we're kind of calling it now, because it encompasses so many different forms of repetitive head injuries.
Correct.
Is, causing some stink. I mean, just, a little bit, we know about, the mental illness rates, maybe just the suicide rates.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the military's looked at, we know that artillerymen, tankers, EOD, right?
Mortar.
But our aviators, helicopters, kind of a softer landing there. Been in them a whole bunch of times. So do you see what you would say as an elevated, incidence of mental illness, amongst fighter pilots that could be related to this? Because obviously that article, I think it even pointed at suicides, no?
Oh yeah. Well, I got to take my hat off to the helo dudes and the helo ladies. It ain't flying a fighter jet and pulling G's. Man, you've been on helos. That the engine and the motors and the vibration for hours at a time. And they might be sitting on a cushion, but that ain't no airline seat. And it can't be too cushioned in case you catch a round up, through your ass type of thing. So the helo bubbas are also having some repetitive stress injury just from the constant shaking. Your body's not designed to constantly vibrate for hours on end.
Never even
so the helo folks, we've helped a lot of Black Hawk and a lot of helo bubbas heal too, man, because they're in it. But to your point about the New York Times article, obviously, and of course I make fun of the Air Force. They're barely on our side. They don't have the landing, aboard a boat issues or catapult shots, but it's also the pulling G's. I would fight the jet on the edge of consciousness, right? When I come into the merge with another Hornet or any fighter aircraft that I'm dogfighting, man, I pull to the limit of the aircraft and the blood is pulling out of your head, man. That's how it's called G-lock, G loss of consciousness. So you got to squeeze your legs and your abs. And then obviously we're wearing what we call a G suit. It's like some metrosexual dude in Miami. It's like the tightest skinny jeans, and then they inflate and they squeeze your legs to give you about a half a G to maybe a full G of protection. So I would actually fight the jet on the edge of consciousness. If you've ever passed out before, the first thing you notice to go is what? You start getting tunnel vision. It's called gray out.
Scuba school crossovers. I know exactly what that looks like.
That's exactly right. And it's interesting because as you gray out, you can still hear the radio. You still know you're flying, but your vision is the first thing to go if you're going to pass out. It's like your critical bodily functions are like, let's get rid of vision first and try and keep, at least a heartbeat. So fighting the jet on the, I pulled a gray and then get an advantage. I'd unload a little bit to get the blood in my head so I could see again. Where is he? Okay, there's the bad guy. And get on the G again. So you're literally fighting on the edge of consciousness. That didn't go to med school, but there's no way on God's green earth that's healthy. The human body is not designed to fight on the edge of consciousness repeatedly. And once a year, you've probably seen it in the movies, once a year, we go to a centrifuge training. They put you in a capsule and they spin you, man, to do up to 9 Gs. So if on a good day I weigh 200 pounds, that's 1,800 pounds of force. And after that, when I go home, Susie, my wife's like, you have old man ass, and underneath my arms, all the blood vessels, the capillaries would burst. We call them G measles. So underneath your arms and your legs and your ass, where all the blood got pulled to, all the blood vessels would burst. So the New York Times was like, hey, for all the Top Gun Maverick recruiting poster stuff, these fighter pilots actually go, it ain't all sunshine, unicorn, and lollipops. They're in it and they're putting us through it. But it's interesting. The New York Times interviewed, our chief medical officer. She flew Tomcats, and she's the chief medical officer of our foundation after sitting with psychedelics. And then also another one of our grant recipients who was also a Tomcat backseater. They didn't interview a pilot. Now they could have interviewed, or they did interview me. My quote didn't make it in there, and here's why. The vast majority of fighter pilots, when you leave the military, where do you go? Go to the airlines. And guess what? When you get your FAA physical, have you ever had PTSD, depression? Do you have any head trauma? Nope. Just like
you
answer yes to any of those. Yeah. You answer yes to any of those, and you will not be an airline pilot. You won't have a career. So there aren't too many pilots running around out there saying, hey, this happened. I can. Right. My first and last day at work at American Airlines was 9/11. So I ended up going to Wall Street instead. But years later, I got back into flying. I bought my own fighter jet for our foundation to help raise money. So I can talk about this. I don't give a shit if the FAA comes after me, because I'm not going to lose my airline career. I was not designed to sit in front of pressurized aluminum for 8 hours a day. I can't say I'm glad 9/11 happened. That sounds weird, but everything happened for a reason. I'm not designed to be an airline pilot. So that New York Times article really turned the lights on in the kitchen to fighter aviation and a lot of the stress involved. In 15 years of flying fighters, I lost 16 brothers. Also in mishaps, bad weather, stupidity, mechanical failure, all sorts of issues. Not just one combat.
Like training accidents, combat. Yeah. Hold on.
We don't call them accidents, right? They were mishaps, because there's no such thing as an aviation accident. None of that is by accident. So we always use the term mishap.
Okay. Well, we don't have training mishaps in the Army. We have training accidents.
Oh, you call them accidents?
Yeah, we call them training accidents, right?
But in addition to the 16 buddies I lost in cockpit issues, I lost 3 F-18 brothers to suicide, including a groomsman in my wedding. One of my best friends, he was a Marine Hornet pilot. You obviously can't go back in time and debrief, dude, why'd you kill yourself? But, a lot of the 3 guys that were buddies of mine that aren't here any longer, it all had to do with flying, in my opinion. So I can never, I meditate and stuff like that, but I can never sit in silence. In this interview tonight, when I go to bed, until my last breath, I have a horrific high-pitched squeal for the rest of my life. And it's maddening at sometimes. The medicine work that I've done helps me deal with it. But I could tell if I was not a healed individual with the psychedelics I've done, I might not be here. And then debilitating back issues, man. Thank God, knock on wood, that hasn't crept up on me yet, but I have brothers and sisters who are just hunched over, man, pulling 9 Gs for decades. You lose your height. So that can't be healthy either. So I'm thankful that we're starting to turn the lights on to some of these other veterans issues. Because I'll be honest with you, man, you're an operator. When I went to go heal with Marcus Luttrell and JT Jared Taylor from Black Rifle, I remember going, I'm embarrassed. I was up at 30,000 feet, in air conditioning. You guys are at 3 feet. My trauma is a joke compared to yours. And then, I've learned to not trauma shame or trauma grade. As veterans, we're awful at this, right?
Yeah.
If something's hurting you, something's hurting you. trauma is trauma, and you deserve to heal. Don't compare your trauma to anybody else's, man. We do that as vets, and we're bad about it. So I'm glad that the aviation side of the house is getting a little love too.
And and I think it's unfortunate that right now we're just starting to recognize this is an issue. So when I got involved with brain trauma after my son took his life, and I learned about RHI,
Mm-hmm.
then it started. I started looking at blast exposure. I'm like, well, who's picking this one up? I mean, what are we doing? And it just kind of appalls me that we have studied TBI. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars studying TBI.
Correct.
Well, TBI is not the problem. TBI, is an event. It's like one hard landing. Did you get hurt? We can heal you as long as you don't keep hard landings and pulling G's, right?
Correct.
When that becomes a lifestyle, and you've got something like concussive exposure, why the hell, we got the VA, we've got the military, we've got researchers, CDC, NIH, you name your foundation, that are all researching all this stuff.
Correct.
How have we overlooked this issue? Why now, right? And we still got to go back to the tens of thousands of pilots that have flown and done your job, all the operators, all the tankers, all the artillerymen. We have so much tragedy that has occurred as a result of this oversight, and for a long time we just didn't know. I got
correct.
That. I don't care. We know this is an issue. We'll talk about fixing it, but why do you think this just has not been a focus? I mean, we fought 2 wars. We've had thousands of kids. We got 100,000 Maine kids out there. We got 9,000 dead, and we lose 9,000 more, 8 to 9,000 more a year because of suicide. Yeah. This is part of that. So why aren't we more on it? How just
Bruce, you're not going to like the answer. You know the answer since you've been in it. It's the MIC, man, the military industrial complex. When I saw 3-4 months ago that Tom Cruise has signed on to do Top Gun 3, I'm like, oh, great. Does he get out and he has to fight the VA because they're denying all his claims?
Hey, be careful. St. Petersburg's where all those guys live up here, man.
Yeah, exactly. So Maverick faces his toughest enemy, the VA, part 3. It's right? The truth.
Dude, so it is.
You're not going to, the Pentagon loves the Paramount Studios and Maverick. The military industrial complex loves great recruiting videos and stuff like that. They ain't going to show any of this stuff, period. They, the military can do an incredible job training you and I to do some awful things to another human being. But when they're done with us, they spit us out, and they do a pretty shitty job of turning us back into being a human. So I'd like to believe things are getting better. But they're still paying lip service to it being better. There's still no radical changes. I would love to believe President Trump ain't going to be any more foreign wars or anything like that, which would be awesome. Last time I checked, the only duty of a military is to protect the homeland, and the border's been open for 4 years. So finally, our military is being used to protect the country. So I'm getting there with being a little hopeful, but I'm just not fully there yet.
Yeah, it's looking back too. I mean, you think of all the kids that are no longer here. We're estimating between 130, 140,000 suicides since 9/11, right?
Yep.
Then we have all the other issues that really are suicides, but not counted. You got death by alcohol, these drug overdoses,
correct?
All the stuff that's out there, and we're looking at a long line of carnage that still needs to be addressed. I mean, these kids,
correct,
and yourself, sir, did nothing wrong. We signed the line. We did our jobs, and now all we want is we're not looking even for money, right? It's all about, look, just take care of me and take care of me properly. Don't give me drugs that numb me and have black box warnings, and give me talk therapy that doesn't work, and that's all you're. We just had a guest on the podcast. She went to the VA for a process. And they said, no, drugs and therapy, those are our protocols. Back to your military. I call it the pharmaceutical industrial complex when it comes to mental illness, because they are all in this box. But
I agree. It was interesting because I saw yesterday that the Pentagon has hit the recruiting numbers for the first time in 5 years. And I wonder why, because of the new commander in chief. But I got to tell you, for the past 4 years, 5 years or so, I didn't know I know hundreds, if not thousands of veterans. I don't know a single vet who wanted their kids to serve. I got 2 boys, man. They grew up coming into their dad's fighter squadron in their little flight suit that their mom made them wear. And they wanted to, I steered both of them away from serving. Now, my oldest re-boomeranged in and said, Dad, I want to fly fighter jets. I'm like, I love you, son. You can do whatever you want. But I tried to steer too. My middle boy listened to me, and he's at the University of Colorado in Boulder. But the number one source of recruitment for the United States military for the longest time has been you and I.
Yep.
Veterans. When you lose us, when you break your promises to help us when we're done, we're going to badmouth the hell out of you to kingdom come. Take good care of us, and your recruiting numbers will go through the roof. This ain't hard, right? This isn't rocket surgery.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, a lot of the things that the veterans do is like the kids look at us like we know that most of us came from nothing. If it wasn't for the military, I know I personally would not be in the situation that I am. Without, even with the unfortunate loss of my son, it was the military that allowed me to start companies and do my thing. But that's what gets into our kids like, man, Dad got here. And if I don't want to go to college, you know, so I do have a lot of friends whose kids are serving, even under the last administration, and fortunately they weren't placed too much at risk.
Good,
you know, given what happened. So, but awesome. I mean, so talk about the transition. You come out of the Navy, kick-ass fighter pilot, you know, Top Gun guy, and then bam. You know, what happened between retirement and, you know, the foundation? What were the next steps you took in your life?
Well, so there's a lot of BAMs, right? To your point, you know, most people that join the military, they're not Donald Trump's kids. They're not, you know, George Soros's kids. Rich kids aren't going into the military, right? The affluent, if anything, steal their kids away from service above self, right? So, you know, I was born in South Jersey, South Philadelphia. One of 6 kids, typical Irish Catholic family. And unfortunately, I was sexually abused as a child. And then I lost my middle sister, Monica, to a drunk driver when she was 19, which was just it was a hand grenade in the middle of our family. And technically, I lost my parents that day, too. They were my dad was done. So why do I bring this up? Because I took that. You know, when you go in the military, you don't take off your childhood trauma. If anything, you hide it. And then, as we talked about earlier, 15, you know, buddies, 16 buddies in 15 years, and then 3 suicides. So I've been, and in aviation, just like the folks on the ground, we're taught to compartmentalize, right? If you and I are flying on a mission and you get smoked, I can't mourn Bruce right now, man. I got a mission to do. I gotta press, or I'm going to get killed too. I'll mourn him later. Well, guess what happens? You don't get to mourn you later. There's another mission, then there's another loss. So all those compartments we're taught to compartmentalize end up building up. And then, you know, one day, like a jack in the box, all of them spring out on you. And it could be, you know, something really bad. So I left, you know, I just mentioned briefly losing my, you know, job at American Airlines on 9/11. So I went to Wall Street. So I was flying F-18s for the reserves out of Naval Air Station Fort Worth, and I was helping to run a trading firm up in Chicago. So when you go from a fighter squadron where you trust the men and women in that squadron with your life, or they're just not in that organization anymore, to Wall Street, where I couldn't trust a guy to watch my wallet for 5 minutes when I went to take a leak. So talk about a culture shift, right? Some of these people would push their own mother in front of a bus for $1. I mean, it was disgusting.
It is bad.
So that led to some booze, that led to some drugs, and that led to me just spiraling the drain, man. And it was just some very, very dark nights of the soul. So in 2020, you know, God takes care of fools, drunks, and sailors. So, you know, bases loaded for Whiz. I had a buddy in the White House. He was a military aide. And this is December of 19. He gave me a heads up. He's like, bro, Pentagon is going ape shit. There's a level 4 weapons. The only level 4 weapons facility in the whole country of China is in a city called Wuhan. They are digging up the highways. They're building mobile crematoriums. Something got out of a lab and they're going ape shit, and it's going to spread around the world. So I didn't do insider trading. I did outsider trading. I told everybody who would listen. I bring that up because that's one of the books I wrote. It was called COVID Crash: From Panic to Profit. So there was a couple senators who heard the same things I did. And what did they do? They went out to microphones and said, everybody relax, remain calm, it's not coming here. And then got on their phone and called their broker and told them to get out and told their friends, right? But of course, the government investigated that and said, well, no, we won't charge them with insider trading. Like, that's the definition of it. But anyway, I did outsider trading. Why am I bringing this up? Because, remember the smart money? Like, oh, this is the bottom. I'd be a buyer of stocks here. Donald Trump, like a week into it, I have a screenshot of the tweet. He deleted it. Stocks are looking good here. I'd be a buyer of stocks. The next day, the Dow went down 3,000 points. I made 75 grand on a couple puts in like minutes. I bring this up because I think we made like $2.5 million in like a week of trading. And I bring that up because, my old man was like, Matthew, you can't take it with you, right? You're not a pharaoh. They're not putting this stuff in your casket, right?
Pharaoh.
Yeah. So, and I'm not one to quote scripture too often, clearly, but it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And that was right around the time that my buddy Swede checked out. So I looked at my bride and I said, you know what, Susie, let's take this money and start a foundation to try and end veteran suicide, because I don't want to lose any more buddies. But how do you, at the time we looked at each other, we're like, how do you keep a veteran from killing themselves? I mean, help them pay the rent, buy a suit, write a resume. We're throwing stuff at the wall. And then that's when a buddy of mine reached out to me and he said, hey, there's a group of Navy SEALs and special forces guys who go down to Mexico and they do psychedelic-assisted therapy to heal their traumas. And there's a really cool group going in a couple weeks. Would you want to go? And I said, man, go to Mexico and do drugs with Navy SEALs? Sign me up, man. Let's fucking go. I had no idea what I was in for or what was about to unfold, but thank God that it did. And I love you talking about that. So here was my group, man. Marcus Luttrell, obviously the lone survivor. One of his team guys, his name's JJ. Jared Taylor, he was a JTAC, runs Black Rifle Coffee now. And then the last guy in our group, his name's Robert Gallery, All-American from Iowa. Just got into the College Football Hall of Fame last year. And then played for the Raiders for 6-7 years. And this guy, and I know they only know if you had CTE after you die and they open your head up. This guy, y'all meet, you meet in San Diego and then you kind of convoy down to the clinic. Why? Because if you do what I'm about to tell you in San Diego, you're a criminal. You're a felon. Yeah. If you do it an hour south, it'll save and change your life. Now let that sink in. But wow. I was in the car with Robert. I remember sitting in the back seat next to this 6'5", 350-pound dead human being. He looked like a gray iceberg. Let me fast forward. A year later, I'm at a fundraiser in San Diego, and this massive thing bumps into me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get my ass kicked. What's going on? It was Robert. He's a different human being, completely different human being. And he's actually has started his own foundation to get Ibogaine and psychedelic-assisted therapy to his NFL brothers and other athletes in other sports. Because he was in a bad place. And then obviously the SEAL guys I were with had the concussion and the TBI. But man, it was without a doubt the most profound and transformational experience of my 52 years at the time. It was not fun. It was not recreational. It was, I've landed in the middle of the Pacific at night on a boat, low on fuel in bad weather. That was enjoyable. That was a cakewalk compared to this experience.
Amen.
12 to 14 hour in it. But man, it literally, it saved and changed my life. I got to experience my sister again. I reconnected with, I lost my faith for decades. What type of God lets me be molested, kills my sister, kills my buddies? There ain't no God. Woohoo. Man, I was wrong.
Yeah. Give him a chance to talk to you, man. Yeah.
I was on my knees in tears, and he lifted me up and said, Matthew, get up. I don't make imperfect things. Let me take all this trauma. Let me take all this shame and regret and drugs and alcohol. That's gone. And literally it was with a wave of a hand. And he said, let me show you the good you can do. And I've never looked back. I got home and I said, Susie, this is how we're going to end veteran suicide. So the No Fallen Heroes Foundation we give grants to veterans, first responders, and their families to sit with the medicine. So why first responders? Well, as you know, a lot of guys and gals leave the military, and when they take off that uniform, they don't take off the trauma, and they go home and they throw on a police officer, a firefighter. They become a first responder, and they add to their trauma, right? I had a Marine buddy, 20-year Marine. He's like, dude, my Marine trauma is a joke compared to fire rescue. He was a fire rescue guy in Miami. He's like, the things that people do to a child. And he's like, man. So we help first responders as well. And then family members, Gold Star wives, spouses, moms and dads. They serve too, and they deserve to heal. My wife is a saint. She had to put up with my shit. I don't know how, clearly she truly loves me, because I don't know how she dealt with me for this long. But she, after I got home, and she's like, whoa. I'm like, get up, let's go. Life is great. Everything's great. And she's like, well, yay for you. what about? So a couple months later, she went with some veteran wives, a Gold Star wife and some other team wives. And she came home, and we've never been better parents, humans, or just, it's been incredible. Knock on wood, I think our number, I'm working on my 2024 annual debrief. I think we're close to about, let's just round up, 100 folks, veterans, first responders, and family members that we've helped heal. Knock on wood, man. Not a single person has come home and said, complete waste of time, or I'm worse, or sucked.
Yep.
People have gotten home and had challenges, right? Because you're going to get home with a clean piece of paper. It's a Control-Alt-Delete. God literally scrubs your shit and hands it back to you like, now go. If you get home and you go back to old habits and stupid stuff, you're going to have a challenge. But I'm not one to use this term too lightly, but I was born again. This is the second half of my life. The first half is in the rearview mirror with all its pain and trauma, and now I am a different human being. Still have my shitty days, but I'm not walking around sunshine, unicorns, and lollipops all the time. But my old Whiz, in a bad day, man, I was in it. And if I was in it, everybody else was going to be in it, and everybody else was going to watch me drink a bottle of vodka tonight and get out of my way. Me now, bad day. I get out of me and I look at me and go, dude, sucks.
Wake up.
Embrace the suck. It ain't forever. You're going to pass through it. Just, so it's a completely different life before the medicine and after the medicine.
So before we go to that, because when I go on your show, I will definitely embrace the suck with you on a similar experience. But you think of 100 veterans, and then you think of all the family members, inner circle, outer circle, the network of people that they're going to impact with their new self. A month ago, I was, this will probably never happen again, but they put 900 Green Berets on a cruise ship. And I got
Did everybody live?
Everybody lived, and the boat sailed. It made it back to port. It was all good. During that,
I thought you guys would have turned into like pirates or something and taken over the Red Sea.
if I was still drinking, that might have happened, but we were good. But we let it go. But anyways, I get this guy. He used to work for me, and I did not know how bad it got for him. And he's his name's Pat Flatley. He's been on podcasts, very very open about this. And he comes up to me, he goes, Pac-Man. That's my nickname. Most people don't even know my name. Is like, we need some help. I said, what's up? Because he knows I've had some companies. I got an SF captain with a 9 mil in his mouth, and I got to get him to Mexico. And I'm like, what do you need? He says, I need some money. I said, all right, put me in touch. So he put me in touch with, the Vets organization, who you're probably familiar with. And we got this guy down there. And I looked at him. I go, dude, what's up with you? He goes, bro, same story. I am back. And I want our audience to understand this psychedelic movement. When we are looking at a loss of 8,000, 9,000 veterans a year, because the VA still gives them drugs and therapy. They will not alter that. And we have not only this medicine, we have ayahuasca, we have psilocybin, we have MDMA, we have NMEO 5-DT, Bufo, whatever you want to call it. These drugs, you call them drugs because they're not legal. I don't care. These medicines are saving lives. And I'm not saying just saving lives. They are reforming, transforming lives. And Whiz's story, I have heard this over and over and over again. Yet, like he says, you go to America and do this, then you're a criminal, but you got to go to Mexico. Now, there is a new Iboga church that just started in America with the loophole now. And I don't know, I got somebody attending that to see how that might affect. But the transformation of individuals, and like Whiz, you're not, it's not like you're a criminal, right? You haven't, molested kids. You're not a bad human being. You're imperfect like we all are. And it just shows you how much we have to grow. That even though we're good people, like you're a good provider, you're a good leader, you're a good pilot, you're a good mofo, right? Like that we still, when we get in these medicines, need to understand, talk to the audience about, the transformation, if you want to discuss it, like, it's, I just want them to understand the reach of these medicines and how they take people, even though if you had alcohol, sleep, whatever problems you did have. And you come back and your wife's looking at you like, my wife calls me Bruce 2.0, right? And it's so I mean, just tell the audience about, just the experience, if you go a little bit deeper into it, if you could, just so they understand how profound these medicines are and why they're impacting these vets the way they are.
Yeah. And, let me share this with you. I try and go on every retreat that we do, but, now we're starting to just send people individually so we don't have to do like our own retreat type of thing. I bring that up because if I don't go on a retreat or we're sending people in onesies and twosies, almost every time when I'm not there, I get a text from these people that say, Whiz, I don't want to kill myself anymore. You can't put a dollar amount. You can't put anything amount on. I screenshot those. I have a folder. I have a shitty day folder. When I'm having one of those shitty days, I read all those texts and emails that I get from people that says, you saved my life, or I don't want to kill myself anymore. So it's that transformational. And trust me, if I were sitting here listening to this, I'd be calling bullshit on it. But, veterans, we're not going to listen. God's pretty smart, obviously. God's like, veterans ain't going to listen to some dude wearing a drug rug and mala beads, right?
You're out of there. Right?
Smelling like weed. We're not going to listen to that. We are going to listen to a Navy fighter pilot veteran, a Navy SEAL, or a Spec Ops operator, a Gold Star wife. So, the first psychedelic revolution, Timothy O'Leary, hey, let's put it in the water, probably freaked a lot of people out. And that was the wrong approach, right? They were fishing with hand grenades. This psychedelic revolution is being led by veterans. So if mom and pop walking down the street look up to us for whatever reason, maybe that's when they start listening. Like, wait a minute, these guys are, anti-crime, anti-drug, pro-America, wrap themselves in a flag, and they're doing this stuff. Maybe I should listen. Maybe I should sit up straight. But like we talked about a little bit earlier, I was a drinker. I don't know if you can be a good drinker. I wasn't. I was a bad drinker. And up to 8 months, I'll say a year. Let's just round up to a year after sitting with Ibogaine once If I looked at alcohol, God forbid I smelled it, I would dry heave. It made me physically ill. So Ibogaine is an addiction interrupter. Heroin, alcohol, porn,
Sex,
caffeine.
yep.
You name the addiction, it will break it. I didn't say cure it. I said it'll give you a reprieve. That's why I say when you get home, you got to put in the work. If you fall back into all the shit that was making you sick, you're going to be in a dogfight now and it's going to suck. But if you come home and you don't do that stuff, I mean, there was a study, people can look it up. 85% of heroin addicts who sat with Ibogaine once, up to 3 years, never looked at the stuff again. Why up to 3 years? Because they stopped the study. They're like, okay, if you do heroin after 3 years, it wasn't the Ibogaine.
Yeah.
You were cured. Something that ain't, something else is going on. And these people in this study, I mean, as you're probably well aware, one of the worst things about heroin addiction is what? Breaking it. The shakes, the vomit, it's just the side effects, right? These people, after Ibogaine, came downstairs and had breakfast type of thing. They're like, wait a minute, I haven't eaten breakfast in a decade, and I'm not shaking and vomiting and needing a fix. It destroyed it. So it is literally that transformative that a guy like me, now, full transparency, guess what I can do now? I can have a glass of wine with my steak or my pasta, but it's a glass. Old Whiz, a glass man, a bottle, probably 2, maybe even 3. So I control it now. The old days, man, it controlled me. And then, like I said, it just literally going to the airport. When I got home from Mexico, or we got into San Diego from Mexico, just the airport. I was friendly. I said hi to people. The flight was delayed. I'm like, yay. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm happy. It was literally just a different, I remember talking to myself like, dude, because people were yelling at the gate agent and stuff. I'm like, I was nice to the gate agent. I got upgraded to first class. I'm like, oh my God. He's like, you were the first. Yeah. He's like, you're the first. You were the only nice person to me today. You want to sit in first? I'm like, oh my God. I probably would have been one of the guys yelling at that poor guy. Right.
Yep.
So it literally transformed everything in my life. Now, if people are sitting here watching this going, is it mad? It's not a magic pill, right? As we've talked about, you got to get home and you got to put in the work. But I will, one of the questions I get asked the most is, can it be one and done? The answer is yeah. I know guys and gals that have done the medicine once and are great and never go back. We do, me and my original medicine brothers, and if we can't all make it together, we at least do it on our own. I do an annual knock the rust off my vehicle, or as an aviator, I'll give you an aviation analogy. I get about an annual or a year's worth of ice build up on my wings. I need to go de-ice or I'm going to stall. And it's so cool, Pac-Man, because every year I go for an annual knock the rust off, man, I just learn more and more. And it's interesting because the more medicine work I do, the less medicine I actually do. And, 5 years ago, Whiz, if I heard me talk like this, I would have kicked my own ass. But my guide reminds me, she's like, you are the medicine. Technically, you don't need this stuff, but radical trauma might need radical healing. So the more medicine work I do, I actually really don't even need that much. And I'm in it and healing. Let me share this with you. The second time about a year later, I sat with the medicine. It was tough. The first time was flowing robes, God healing me and stuff like that. The second time was pretty challenging. And I will, as thankful, if not more, than my first time. And here's why. First of all, my guide said, the next day, I'm like, man, that was a little bit more challenging. And she's like, oh, I probably should have told you. I'm like, told me what? She's like, she said, and I've been doing this for decades. Anybody I've helped who does the medicine again with the intention of helping people, the medicine shows you everything. She's like, the first one, you got your wings. The second one, this time you went to Top Gun, didn't you? I'm like, that's a great analogy. I get this. Yep. Because God was still loving and everything like that. And this was a really cool part because that year The ice buildup was my ego, meaning this. I thought I was failing. I was helping vets and first responders and family members go on retreats. I was going on these retreats and people weren't healing, right? At least I thought that, because this is how I healed. And so I remember feeling kind of shitty going into the medicine the second time. I'm like, man, I'm a failure. Let me go hit the medicine again to see why I'm a failure. Man, God came to me, and God clearly is always loving and gentle. And he was, but it was kind of like son, what are you doing here? You know all of this stuff. What can I help you with? I said, God, I'm failing. I'm trying to help these people heal, and I'm letting you down. Very loving and very full of light and energy. He said, Matthew, you can't heal anybody, son. They have to heal themselves with me. And that's my job, buddy. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep walk them to the door, carrying them to the door, drag them to the door. They got to walk through, son. And I was healed. I felt that 100-pound backpack I carried for 12 months, it just dropped to the ground. I'm like, oh my God. What? It's so funny because after when you come out of medicine, it's this type of transformational. And then you're like, well, duh, why didn't I know that?
Right.
But I clearly didn't. Right. So the medicine can kind of do what we call modo, master of the obvious sometimes. But sometimes the obvious is not so obvious because of our ego. I'm a fighter pilot. I'm this, I'm that, and I'm helping people heal. Dude, you can't help anybody heal, man. They have to do it themselves, which was very transformational. So even though I know that now, still working in this space is tough, man. I was about to say I don't want to wake up in the morning. Of course I do. But when I wake up in the morning, man, sometimes I don't even want to look at my phone because every grant request that comes into the No Fallen Heroes, I haven't read one that's full of shit, right? I haven't read one that doesn't make me tear up or cry. These people are hurting. They need help. And I just feel so futile sometimes, man. The past week watching the bullshit in DC, $1.5 million for trans opera in Serbia. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Right. If our foundation had $1.5 million, I could clear half my list, if not the entire list.
We're getting ready to talk to that because
it infuriates me.
I just wrote the legislation for Congress. Congressman Derek Van Orden has it right now. That
Great American.
It's put together a full packet. I'm talking to Morgan Luttrell, Marcus's brother, who's the head of the Brain Caucus. Yep. I have put together our foundation, or me. We wrote the entire plan for awareness and education advocacy, diagnosis, and treatment to include billing options and insurance coverage.
Good.
And we're going to get this funded. And your foundation is going to be part, because it's going to be, we have to, the country, the veterans, not me, but the VA needs to get out of its box, and they need to start trusting folks like you with a demonstrated history. So let me ask you one question. Correct. Out of all the veterans that you've helped, first responders, all, what is the rate of people that have been through your experience that said this has positively impacted my life? Not even completely transformational, but this has helped me get on the path.
I hate saying this, bro, but I'm going to say 100. But maybe I'll say 99.9 because 100% is never fully statistically accurate. Again, nobody has said, dude, I'm worse. This failed. This sucked. What a waste of time. Not a single person. So when I look at something like, what is it, S-ketamine or Spravato, 12% effective rate, I'm like, okay, 12% versus 100. But as you know, man, it's a revolving door between the VA and Big Pharma. You just alluded to it, man. If you get an appointment 10 months down the road and you get in there and they say, what's your symptoms? These things. Here's the script. Next. Whoa. What about what's inside? Like,
what's on this script, dude? What does this do to me, man?
It's exactly right. So we helped a SEAL, a team guy who was on 15 meds.
Dude, hear it all the time, bro. Crazy.
5 to wake up, 5 for lunch, 5 to go to bed. He hasn't taken a med in 4 years. So if you're sitting in, Pfizer headquarters listening to this podcast, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So clearly, and to your point, the new VA secretary seems like a good dude. Get out of your office. Get these people out of their cubicles, throw some hiking boots on, and join me at a retreat in Colorado. Hold space. Don't believe me. I'm full of shit. Assume I'm a liar. Go on these retreats. Hold space. Sit in ceremony, and you see it for yourself. I can't stand this, man.
I tell them to take the damn drug and see what the heck, the medicine, and see what they go through.
I'd love that to happen too, but if anything, just hold space. Oh, bro,
No,
if I tell people, if I could kidnap Putin and Zelensky and throw them in a room with Iboga for a week, there would be no more war. And people think I'm full of shit, and I'm not. It's the truth. There would be, that's one of the reasons these medicines are still illegal at a federal level, is because they can turn warriors into peacemakers. I've seen it. I've seen knuckle dragging. Yeah.
No, I had a meeting this week. God damn it. I hate Microsoft Office. So anyways, and here's the point. We're talking about VA that's giving out drugs that have a 25% possibility of impacting somebody's life. And we're talking to you saying we've got 99.9% people coming back. And these, the people, like, I've been helped with ketamine. I've been helped with stellate ganglion blocks. I've done the journey with ayahuasca several times, and I'm going out for a little bit of your medicine as well, because I want to walk the walk. Okay, when
Amen.
I talk, I'd say this stuff works. It's worked for me. All right.
Yes.
And what it's just that this whole issue, like you said, can be addressed in Ibogaine, and Iboga addresses, ketamine, everything, ketamine stuff, PTSD, anxiety. You're talking, and I've seen this with other plant medicines like ayahuasca, people that are snorting heroin with guns in their mouth, multiple suicide attempts. I was with a Marine who has, from TBI, Rice Krispies in his head, at a level 8, like your tinnitus. And the only thing that helps him is plant medicine. And he's got to fly himself, pay money to get this relief that he incurred at the cost of serving his country. So
it's infuriating, man.
It is absolutely infuriating, and it must change. And that's why having you on this podcast and talk about what you're doing is so unbelievable, man. I mean, this is, what you're doing right now, sir, is you're saving lives. And you might feel like you're not saving nothing. We all feel like that. Every life that you have saved is a blessing from our Lord. Amen. And it's a blessing to your foundation. It's a blessing on you personally, sir. You are delivering you are doing God's work.
Thanks,
and
bro.
I absolutely want to help you as much as I can. I know it's all about money, right? When you do what we do in this business, which is help people, it's all about cash, bro.
Doesn't that suck, man? I joke. I joke with my wife because, I'm like, I'm fucking awesome at everything except raising money. It's the worst thing I've ever had. I can't. That's why I'm glad, I went out and bought my own fighter jet. I'm like, maybe I'll fly donors in the back seat, because I can't. It's a skill set that I simply don't have. I assumed that if people heard this story, they'd be throwing money out the windows to the foundation. Bro, it's insane. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you crack the code. Well, we just alluded to it. Clearly, you and I needed to live in the Northern Virginia or DC and make up some bullshit, help, build clogs in Ireland foundation. And we would have been, Politico. Yeah. Politico gets $8 million. Are you insane? So you and I are clearly doing it wrong. We don't know the right people, but
I'm working on it now. We're working on it now. And I think between who you know and I know, and then all the other people we're working with in this space, this psychedelic space is revolutionizing. It is the only thing, and I'll tell everybody in this podcast there, since 9/11, this is the only area, and whether you include ketamine or not, and stellate ganglion blocks, this is the only thing helping our veterans. That's it.
Correct.
Yes, and those electronic, the electronic therapies, your stimulation and H-spot and stuff like that. But when you start talking about end-of-life scenarios where men and women are at the brink of extinction and it's going to cause all the suffering for their families, then this is it. The
Correct.
Ibogaine is absolutely through the roof with its success rate on healing veterans. And we
Correct.
have to fix this. We have to address it. And Whiz, you are all over this space. And I am counting you as a friend. And I am counting you as, and I am supporting you 100% on this mission, man. I can't wait to know more. And we'll get that absolutely knocked out, man. I cannot thank you for coming on this show, sharing your story with our audience. And I think it's going to be an amazing journey. I know it's an amazing journey that you're on. And I cannot wait to help you and see you succeed more, sir. This is amazing.
Pac-Man, thank you for having me, my brother. Your son is living through you, and he's a good wingman for all of us. What do we say? Lead, follow, or get out of the way. So thank you for leading. Thanks for leading.
Nice.
I'll follow you anywhere, man. I got you from the air, and you got my air support.
We're on it, man. Thank you so much, and we're going to have you back on the show. And I guess I'm coming on yours here in a little bit. Can't wait,
man.
Can't wait to talk. We are definitely going to share, and I'll be in Miami soon, so I'll make sure I link up. Folks,
awesome.
Again, another awesome podcast. Please do not. Whiz, how do people find you? All right, so we always close the show. Sorry, I almost forgot.
Yeah.
How do people find your foundation? Where do they find your books? Tell us all about, websites, URLs, whatever they know to find the Whiz, even especially if they're looking for help, and we can help you give them some help too, sir.
Yeah, man. NoFallenHeroes.com. That's step one. Just go to NoFallenHeroes.com. On the top right, on the drop down, if you're a veteran, first responder, or family member interested in healing, it says grant request form or application or intake form. That's how you can get the ball rolling. So NoFallenHeroes.com. You can follow me on Instagram, official Whiz Buckley, and we're also No Fallen Heroes on Instagram. Go to YouTube. You're going to be on my Max Afterburner podcast. We have some great content on there. Ibogaine, ayahuasca, ketamine, people debriefing their medicine experiences, females debriefing their medicine experiences. We didn't talk about it. We were talking about, kind of getting shot at. Bro, I got to tell you that we've helped a lot of females and unfortunately males who experienced, they weren't shot at by their enemy. You know what? MST. Military sexual trauma. You expect the enemy to shoot and try and hurt you. You don't expect your squadron mate to do it. So we're helping veterans that didn't even see the enemy, except the enemy that was in their own unit. So so go to YouTube, our YouTube channel, and if you or somebody you know wants to go flying in the backseat of a fighter jet, man, just make a nice donation and we can go bend the jet around the skies of Florida. My only suggestion is you eat a banana for breakfast because it's the only food that's going to taste the same coming up as it does going down.
And you got to clean up your own. You got to clean up your own.
That's exactly
that's
right.
the way it is. Well, you're talking to a guy that's done a lot in his life. That's something I've never done. So I'm diving in on that one, man. You got it. So yeah. Well,
right,
thank you so much, and we'll definitely talk about the sexual trauma piece and when we come back. Folks,
all right, Pac-Man.
Thank you, Whiz. Can't thank you enough. Folks, just to close, don't remember, get your free book on the website. It's the only thing out there for you parents to make informed decisions for your kids. 130 reference papers in there, endorsed by everybody in the CT community. Go get it. Download our free app on the Google Store, Head Smart, to understand concussion, subconcussive trauma, and how to take care of your kids. So for all of you, Whiz, once again, thank you so much. Take care of yourselves, take care of your children, but more importantly, take care of yourselves so you can take care of your children. God bless you all, and have a great day. See you on the next episode of Broken Brains with Bruce Parkman. Take care.